Hello once again, first grade teachers. This is Lisa Myers, and if you're watching this screencast, it's because you've decided to review what we talked about at our Professional Learning Day regarding our science unit about light and sound. At that day, we covered all of the next generation science standards that go into this unit. We talked about conducting our investigations, observing the data with light and sound, planning observations and investigations with making musical instruments, talking about the vocabulary of vibration, sound, looking at the parts of the ear, and all those things that go into satisfying the standards. Now, the last part of our day covered how to incorporate more technology into our science curriculum. And this presentation was designed to show you as teachers how we can add a little bit more oomph to our presentation to the students. So we're going to take a look again at presenting our unit on light and sound, and the basis of the unit was putting on a show with light and sound. And we are incorporating technology, and we're going to show students the things that are expected of them in this unit, but we're going to find some creative ways to present this information to them. So we always begin our science lessons with the hook. How are we going to get the kids interested in what they're getting ready to learn? So this YouTube video was presented to me at a STEM institute through Washington University, and I found it very interesting, and it was a huge hook for me. This is an opportunity to ask the kids, what do you hear? What do you see? What do you notice throughout this video? Pay attention to what these musicians are doing and the sounds that they're making. You can pause this video many times to ask kids what they see. And I would even create maybe a wonder wall or some paper to show the observations that the kids are making and talk about being scientists and observing. Notice what they're doing. Not one musical instrument is on this stage. What an amazing hook to get the kids interested in their new unit on science. And again, a great place to pause the video and talk about the light and the sound.
The drums echoing tonight. She hears only whispers of some quiet conversation.
This would be a great part to stop the video and ask the kids, what do they notice about the different people in the video? Who's singing? Who is making musical instrument sounds with their hands or their mouth? And if this video doesn't work for you or your classroom, you could also introduce the kids to a musical group called Pentatonics, who does all of their recording without musical instrument. So we'll go ahead and we'll listen to a little bit more, and then I'll fast forward to the end to show you how they wrap up the video.
Hurry, boy, it's waiting down for you. There's nothing that a hungry man or more could ever do. I guess the rain's down in Africa. Gonna take some time to do the things we never had. Time to do the things we never
So what a great way to introduce the kids to the new unit that they're going to be studying. So again, incorporating those little bits of technology to get the kids excited. So again, you're going to remind them that we're talking about using light and sound to communicate. So this is a graphic that I created with PictoChart, something that is very easy for you to use as a teacher. And what is fantastic about this resource is that you can create digital flyer type pictures with it. And you can also use it to present just like you would Google Slides or PowerPoint. And it's a great tool, gives you lots of options. It's free to use. If you want to upgrade to some of the more specialized graphics and sounds, then you can pay for that, or you could see if your department will pay for that, or your building. But we're going to go ahead and take a look. What I did, and I thought this was really cool, is that after you create your graphic, and I'll show you that on my dashboard, you can then go and we'll preview it. There you go. And you can actually make changes to it. It looks like one long flyer. But then when you go to download, one of the cool things about it is I can turn this on and download it into the individual blocks that create the slides. So again, another great little tool. So I incorporated the different blocks in here, and you're going to present the kids with their design challenge. How can humans communicate using light and sound? And you're going to tell your students that you will be creating, as students, some type of performance, a musical light show, using what they've learned in this unit. Now, of course, that gets them very excited. There's lots of questions. So what you do, as you know, with our science unit, the lessons are broken up into different days, different chunks of time. So you're going to present this to them at the very beginning to get them excited and go over some of the basics. But then you keep reminding them, this might be the infographic that you keep up at the beginning of every day for science. Remember, boys and girls, we're learning this today to help us with our design challenge of how can humans communicate using light and sound. So this is your reminder graphic, if you will. So again, the first section is how do engineers solve problems? Remember, the Next Generation Science Standards focuses a lot on engineering and engineering practices. So students are going to use recycled materials and the design thinking model to plan their own musical instrument. And these are some pictures of students that we have had in the past that have created their own musical instruments. And we're going to talk about how to use technology again to demonstrate their knowledge of what they're using, of what they're building, and their modeling of it. So you're going to remind your students again the design thinking process. Remember that we're going to empathize. We're going to start with the end in mind. Who is our audience? Who is the problem for? What is the problem about? Who does it affect? Well, in this case, it's not necessarily a problem that they need to solve, but they're going to have an understanding of using light and sound to communicate with an audience. And then you'll go through the process with them. And each day you might focus on one aspect of the design thinking model. And again, you're going to talk to the students about their glows and grows. Remember, at Mosaic, being the innovative school, we have these creative ways that we work with our students on all of our problem-based learning and our projects. And our design thinking model focuses heavily on working in teams and giving glows and grows. The glow is a compliment, and we have sentence starters on there for you. I like how you use those cups to make your maracas. And then you would give them a grow. Do you think it would be better if maybe you taped them together using duct tape, or if you fashioned them this way? Or you might want to try this. So it's going to be very, very important that you set those team goals. And again, this is a great graphic that you could create using PictoChart to have on display for your students. And if you create a graphic like I've used in this slide presentation, you can have it full on ready for them every day. We're going to talk in this screencast about using Seesaw and Flipgrid, two resources that we have available. As you know, we use Seesaw, our digital portfolio software, to help kids document their learning. And then Flipgrid is a great tool that's free right now for educators. And what they can do then is record and share the information kind of like a commercial, or in a fashion that allows everyone to see it. And then even you could push it out to them on their Chromebooks and let each student comment on someone else's. So these are examples of what we've used Seesaw and Flipgrid for. In Seesaw, when we talked about shadows, which again is part of our light and sound unit, we had the students go on the parking lot and we documented the shadow, as you can see right here, in the early part of the day. Then we waited until after lunch to see how the sun's movement, or the Earth's movement around the sun, changed the shadow. And we talked a little bit about that, and then you'll hear again, we use Seesaw, and the students then had to go on and report this to their parents.
This is us tracing our shadows. I think me and Dixie are at the end. Oh, there we are. I have that little side pony. Dixie's smiling, but our shadows can't smile. And shadows only show our shapes. And we're putting our names in our shadows. And I love you. Bye.
So again, a quick way to use technology. Have your students, I had someone out there on the parking lot with me documenting with pictures. I sent the pictures to each student on their journal in Seesaw, and then I asked them to make a comment about what they learned. And you'll see later that then they had to go back in the afternoon shot and make a comment about what they learned with their shadows changing. And then here are some students who used Flipgrid to demonstrate the musical instruments that they created. So another great way to use Flipgrid is for a response or a wonder board. How do humans use sound and light to communicate? You can post that question on Flipgrid. The students then would go on using their devices and record a response. Then once everybody has recorded their responses, you could listen to some of them and have a great conversation with your class. Another way to use technology in your classroom with this unit is to create a word cloud using Wordle or wordcloud.com. There's a number of free options out there. But what I did is I took the responses from Flipgrid and I typed in very common sayings or words that repeated throughout the different Flipgrids, and this is what came up. So students said that they use light and sound to communicate with screaming, flashing lights, slapping hands, whistling. The whistling came up a lot. Singing, lights, stoplights. They talked about flashlight tag. They talked about light signals. They talked about snapping and clapping. Those are different ways that they can use their bodies and sounds to communicate. So I thought those were some pretty interesting observations. So when you get into the next section, you're going to talk about what is sound, and those are your goals for the unit. You're going to explore how we make sound, you're going to talk about vibrations using force, and then the different parts of the brain and the parts of the ear and how it all takes in those sounds and interprets the sound. Well, this kind of conversation could be pretty boring for students, especially first graders, so you've got to find some ways to make it exciting. So one of the things that I like to use is Scholastic Study Jams. They've got some great resources out there that you can pretty much type in any topic, and for the most part you're going to find some really great and appropriate things for first grade. So in this one, it's all about the ear, and there's a short video that talks about
Outer ear.
And
the outer ear is all curvy and windy.
And the parts of the ear.
Sound into the ear canal. The canal is the hole in your ears. That's it. The ear canal.
And it talks about how all your ear and your eardrum and all the different parts of the ear work together to create sounds. And then you have this option to take a quiz. And you could throw this up on the screen and the kids could have it on their Chromebooks. You could read the questions to them. Most of your first graders could probably read these questions by the time of the year that you're introducing this unit. And then they can click on them. And you could say, all right, boys and girls, take this quiz with the 7 questions and bring it to me and show me how you scored at the end. And it'd be a great, really quick little assessment for you to give in the middle of the day. So there's another great way to add some technology. Then we move on to the next section on how we describe sounds, and you're going to reinforce some of the vocabulary for this unit. And then you're going to discuss how rhythm is made from patterns of sounds and silence. And our video at the very beginning, the hook, you can reference that again and talk about how different people in that orchestra had different jobs to do to create the sounds, to create the steady rain, to create the little raindrops, how they had to work together on the risers that they were on, that each time they